Hello students, welcome back to Aspire Academy. Aspire Academy is a non-profit organization jot ami education provide koru for classes 9 to classes 12 aru amar YouTube channelot everyday eta free video jay aru for beleg class details or karone aru notes or karone amar website dot enroll korile hol. আমি last class at কৰি আছিলো class 9 or geography chapter 2 the atmosphere আৰু আমি last class ত অৰ্থৰ এই বেলস কেটাৰ কথা পাতি আছিলো যত আমাৰ atmospheric temperature atmospheric pressure changes আনে বেলস কেটাৰ কাৰণে তো আমি ফাৰ্স্ট দুটা বেল্টৰ কথা পঢ়িলো equatorial low pressure belt আৰু subtropical high pressure belt এই কেটা বেল্টৰ কথা পঢ়িলো আজি আমি পঢ়িম subpolar low pressure belt পঢ়িম subpolar low pressure belt the subpolar low pressure belt is roughly located 60 to 70 degree north latitude of the northern hemisphere and 60 to 7 degree south latitude of the southern hemisphere. Eto amar earth hoy ekdom majot amar equatorial belt dal thakibo equatorial high pressure belt then yate amar subtropical high pressure belt thakibo north or south direction not etia amar thakibo subpolar low pressure belt polar word to mention korise to polar hole amar poles dutar usorot thakibo aru first to hobo northern hemisphere rot subpolar low pressure belt northern hemisphere rot kimanot thakibo 60 degree to 70 degree north side of the northern hemisphere aru jodi ami south to thakibo from 60 degree to 70 degree south latitude in the southern hemisphere. As the result of air of the subpolar region deflects towards the subtropical region and the low pressure is formed there following the decline in volume of air both in the subpolar belts. To ki hoy subpolar region or junkhini air movement ase hekhini ako ami diagram to sole yar pora air khini ako deflect hoi jai subtropical high pressure belt or loke to amar subpolar junkhini air ase hekhini volume to komi jai. The pressure belt, however, sometimes moves slightly towards the north or south. Aru ami diagram to saye gom paisu je ei belt to amar north side aru southern side or poles dutar ekdom osort ase. To ei belt dutat subpolar low pressure belt or air khini ako deflect hoi jabo jetia amar subtropical high pressure belt ole tetia yare air volume bur ako komi jabo because air khini yar loke ahi goise to volume komar loge ki hobo e duta belt volume komar loge e duta beltor juntu atmospheric pressure thakibo ba air pressure thakibo hetu komi jabo aru e duta belt amar north aru south side or phale thake. Next ami pohim polar high pressure belt. Polar high pressure belt keta kot ase polar high pressure belt keta amar ase pura poles tutar pura start hoy amar polar high pressure belt to due to lack of direct sunlight on both the two polar regions of the earth are snow covered and very cold. আমি জানো আমার অৰ্থৰ দুটা south and north pole বহুত ঠান্ডা হয় because আমি ইয়াতে direct sunlight নাপাম আমাৰ direct sunlight সদায় equator regionত পৰে তো হে কাৰণে ইয়াতে direct sunlight নোপোৱা কাৰণে ইয়াতে বহুত ঠান্ডা হৈ থাকে because ইয়াতে most of the year snow দি covered থাকে আৰু ইয়াৰে air is too cold আৰু এই poles দুটাৰ air khini bota khini bahut thanda hoy due to extreme cold condition the water of the region remains deposited in the form of ice. So এক্সট্রিম কোল্ড মানে একদম বহুত বেছি ঠাণ্ডা ঠাণ্ডা কাৰণে কি হৈছে এই দুটা পোলৰ যোনখিনি পানী আছে সেইখিনি আমাৰ আইচৰ আইচ হৈ জমা হৈ থাকে পানী হিচাপে থাকিব নোৱাৰে বিকজ সানলাইট নপৰে আৰু আইচ খিনি গলি নাযায় সেইকাৰণে পানীখিনি আইচ হৈ পেলাই ইয়াতে জমি থাকে that is why the air of this region almost does not contain water vapor সেইকাৰণে এই দুটা পোলত water vapor একদম নাথাকে খালি আইচে থাকে water vapor কেতিয়া থাকিব যেতিয়া water bodies থাকিব water থাকিব but poles দুটাত water নাই poles দুটাত আইচ আছে সেইকাৰণে এই দুটা পোলছত আমাৰ water vapor একদমে নাই as a result air pressure remains permanently high in both the polar region আৰু হেকাৰণে air pressure to permanently high থাকে সদায় high থাকে permanently word to mention কৰিছে মানে সদায় high থাকে আমাৰ air pressure কেতিয়াও air pressure কমি না যায় কাৰণ ইয়াতে water vapor নাই so ইয়াতে কি হ'ব নোৱাৰে আমাৰ air particles বোৰ বা density to কমি যাব নোৱাৰি ইয়াতে আইচ হিচাপে থাকে আৰু গুড মাৰি থাকে হেকাৰণে ইয়াতে আমাৰ air pressure বেছি হয় hence this part of earth is known as polar high pressure belt আৰু এই pressure belt টোৰ নামতে mention আছে high pressure belt so we can conclude that আমাৰ poles ৰ যোনটো belt হয় সেইটোত সদায় আমাৰ atmospheric pressure high থাকে From the above discussion, it is found that the latitudinal extent of the pressure belt is almost the same in both north and southern hemisphere. Our latitudinal extent to same hoy north aru southern side. যেনেকে আমি পহিলু polar high pressure belt to north to polar নহয় subpolar low pressure belt to north to 60 degree to 70 degree আছে in north side northern hemisphere আৰু south to same আছে 60 to 70 degrees তো almost same হয় pressure belts কেটাৰ place. But it is notable that there exists some differences among the pressure belts depending on the location and situation of water and land cover of earth. Aro ame pohisu je pressure belt keta changes ase sobote same nai sob different hoy. Polar region ketat amar besi high pressure karon তাতে water vapor কম আছে water bodies বেছি নাই water বোৰ ice হৈ জমি থাকে হেকাৰণে তাতে air pressure আমি বেছি থাকে but equatorial regionত আমাৰ ইমান air pressure না থাকে তো হেনেকে কিছুমান changes differences আছে for instance despite being located in the same latitude the prevalence of differences in temperature between water and land cover also result in pressure differences আৰু land কিমান আছে water কিমান আছে হেবোৰ লৈও air pressure difference ahe under such a condition a number of small pressure cells are formed within a single pressure belt eta pressure belt or underot বহুত কিটা হৰু হৰু pressure cells form কৰা হয় because এবোৰ differences কাৰণে location differences কাৰণে The change in the location of such pressure cells will, with respect to water and land cover is quite remarkable between winter and summers. Aro a cells buror position beleg geographically. So geographically beleg hua karne kiman land ase kiman water ase plus winter hoy na summer hoy heneke seasonal changes to amar air temperature amar air pressure changes ahe. তো এখিনি আমি ইয়াতে পহিলো কেনেকে belts বুৰে determine কৰে changes বুৰ in the air pressure এতিয়া আমি পঢ়িম definition of wind কি হয় Generally, the air in the atmosphere never remains completely static. আমি জানো যে air এটা জায়গাত ৰখি থাকিব নোৱাৰে air সদায় flow হৈ থাকে সদায় air টো ইফালৰ পৰা ইফালে blow কৰি থাকে never remains completely static কেতিয়াও static হৈ না থাকে এটা জায়গাতে না থাকে the air when it moves is called wind যেতিয়া air to move কৰে ইটো জায়গাৰ পৰা হিটো জায়গালে হেতুক wind বুলি কয় it means that the state of air in motion is wind তোমালোকে ক'ব পাৰা when air is in motion is called wind যেতিয়া air টো ইফালৰ পৰা সিফাললৈ বলি থাকে বা blow কৰি থাকে হেতুকে সেই movement টোকে wind বুলি কয় Generally, this air movement takes place parallel to the Earth's surface. আৰু Earth surface লগত parallelly সমানে blow কৰে Basically, air movements are of two types. Air movement দুই ধৰণৰ হয় এটা হয় horizontal wind আৰু এটা হয় vertical wind. As per the definition of meteorology, when air moves parallelly to the earth's surface is known as wind. Meteorology department windৰ এটা definition দিছে কৈছে যে when air moves parallelly to the earth's surface is known as wind. যেতিয়া air সমানে অৰ্থৰ surfaceৰ লগত blow হয় হেতুকে wind বুলি কয় The movement of air is always horizontal আৰু airৰ movement সদায় horizontal হয় আমি feel কৰিলেও horizontally feel কৰো আমাৰ vertically feel নহয় সিধা সিধিকে airৰ movement নহয় airৰ movement সদায় vertically হয় This, on the other hand, when air moves vertically up, air অকল vertically ওপৰলেহে blow কৰে. This is called vertical wind or current. যেতিয়া wind আমাৰ সিধা সিধিকে blow কৰে upwards, হেতুক আমি vertical wind বুলি কওঁ or current বুলি কওঁ. But it may be mentioned that even though wind moves both horizontally and vertically, the horizontal movement of air is more significant. Our air vertically move करे, horizontally move करे. But horizontal air movement of air is more significant than vertical movement of air. It is mainly because the volume of air involved in horizontal movement is many times more than that of vertical movement. Volume, error যোনটো volume হয় হেতু vertical movement বেছি থাকে as compared horizontal movement বেছি থাকে as compared to vertical movement error volume বহুত কম থাকে horizontal movement error volume বহুত বেছি থাকে Of course it is important to note that the weather and climate of a place greatly depends on the basis of characteristics of wind blowing on it. আৰু এটা জেগাৰ climate আৰু weather windৰ movementৰ হিচাপে change হয় বা determine কৰিব পাৰি. Actually, wind is an important medium of various phenomena in the atmosphere which helps transfer of heat. Wind এটা বহুত important বস্তু হয় আমাৰ অৰ্থত যি phenomena হয় like rain, storm, cyclones এইবোৰৰ কাৰণে wind is very important because wind helps in transfer কৰিবলৈ help কৰে heat, moisture and various other physical characteristics of the atmosphere from one place to another. Wind blow হলে আমাৰ হিটটো transfer হয় হিটটো পৰা হিটটো জাগাত moisture transfer হয় আৰু বেলেগ phenomena like cyclones storms এইবোৰো transfer হয় তো হেকাৰণে wind plays a very important role in atmospheric changes that is why it in broad sense it is known as wind system hekarne windor a function to karne je changes ane blow kore from one place to another and transfer heat moisture and other phenomena he system to ke koise wind system ete ami pohim factors of origin and movement of wind keneke wind to origin hoy aru ki factors e help kore wind blow koribole from one place to another The wind, that is movement of air, basically depends on the temperature differences of atmosphere and is closely associated with atmospheric pressure. Air movement to, wind. Mane ki wind mane movement of air. So wind basically depends on temperature differences. Temperature, earth temperature logot dependent thake. Of atmosphere and its closely associated atmospheric pressure. Atmosphere temperature আৰু atmosphere কিমান pressure হেতুৱে determine কৰিব wind movement to. we know that the Earth's surface is not heated uniformly by sun rays. আমি জানো যে Earthৰ surface টো equally heated up নহয় by the sun rays. সেইকাৰণে polar regionত বেছি sunlight নপৰে কাৰণে বেছি ice থাকে and ঠাণ্ডা থাকে, but equatorial regionত direct sunlight পৰে কাৰণে বেছি গৰম হয় and dry হয়. তো আমি ইয়াৰ পৰা গম পাইছো যে Earthত sun rays equally নপৰে. The atmospheric temperature becomes the highest in the equatorial region. Atmospheric temperature to equatorial region not ekdom besi hoy because sun rays are perpendicular in this part of Earth. Because eto amar Earth hoy, edal amar equator, eto amar sun hoy. Sunor ray to আমার Earthৰ equator regionত directly পৰে, perpendicularly পৰে, মানে directly আমাৰ equatorত পৰে, সেইকাৰণে আমাৰ equatorial regionৰ temperature টো বহুত গৰম হয়. On the other hand, the temperature decreases towards the pole as the sun rays gets gradually inclined away from the equator. আৰু আমাৰ পোলছত directly sunৰ rays নপৰে, সেইকাৰণে আমাৰ পোলছ কেটা ঠাণ্ডা হয় as compared to the equatorial region. We know that when air temperature of a place increases, the air becomes lighter. যেতিয়া এটা জায়গাৰ air temperature টো বাঢ়ি যায়, তেতিয়া air টো light হৈ যায় and moves up and a low pressure is formed. আৰু যেতিয়া আমাৰ ইয়াতে temperature টো air temperature টো একদম বেছি হৈ যাব, তেতিয়া airৰ যোনটো weight হয় atmospheric pressure টো and airৰ weight টো কমি যাব, air টো light হৈ যাব, air will become light আৰু movement হয় towards upward movement হয় আৰু এটা low pressure form hoy, yate eta low pressure form hoy. As a result of this, air movement takes place from high pressure regions characterized by relatively low temperature to this low pressure. Air movement takes place from high pressure region characteristically by relatively low temperature to low pressure regions. Aru air movement to core para basically take place kore high air pressure regions or para basically movement hoy, aru low pressure by relatively low temperature to this lower pressure region or low temperature or lokke iman movement no hoy. It means that the pressure gradient resulting from the pressure difference start the movement of air. The air movement always takes place from relatively a high pressure region to a low pressure region. Aru amar air movement to high pressure region or para low pressure region hole besi movement kore. That is in the direction of pressure gradient. Aru pressure gradient of hole movement kore. The wind velocity, however, depends on the pressure gradient. Aru wind or velocity speed to amar pressure gradient force or upor depend koribo. It may be noted here that the warm air of the equator region, which moves up from the Earth's surface, blows towards the high latitude region and again descends in the polar region. Aru yate koise je warm air to equatorial region or junto warm air hoy, equatorial warm air kyo thakibo because tare temperature to bahut high hoy because sun rays directly equator region not pore. Equatorial region which moves up from the Earth's surface, warm air to equator of the equatorial region uporole move koribo from the Earth's surface, blows towards high altitude. Ukho jagaloi blow koribo region again descends the polar region. Ako polar region not atmospheric pressure to bahi jabo. Again, that air from the polar region moves towards equatorial region as cold air through the low pressure atmosphere. Ako age air khini je polar region at gol, ako polar region or pra equator region ole gusi ahibo, blow back kori ahibo. The air atmosphere of a place and its and its characteristic depend on many factors. Air movement eta jegar aru tar characteristic bahut keta factors or uporat dependent thake. However, the following four interactive forces specially control the air movement. Aru ami tolot pohim charita forces junto karne air movement hoy. In fact, these four forces determine the direction and velocity of wind. Aru a charita factors e wind of control kore, wind or speed aru direction to wind or speed and direction to control kore, determine kore. Hence, the principal forces or factors influencing the movement of wind in any place are pressure gradient force, gravitational force, centrifugal force and frictional force. A sarita force air movement, direction and speed control kore. First is pressure gradient force. Pressure gradient force ki hoy hetu ite ami pohim. The force generated from the atmospheric pressure difference on the earth's surface basically result in the movement of air. Pressure gradient force generate kore atmospheric pressure difference on earth's surface. Code atmospheric pressure differences ase earth's surface teneke air movement to control kore. This is known as pressure gradient force aru etuke pressure gradient force hoy. Ami janu je earthor sob jegate equal atmospheric pressure nai. So each jagat beleg differences ase atmospheric pressure. Hey differences loi pelai air movement to control kore aru he juntu factor e control kore difference sai pelai atmospheric pressure or hetuke pressure gradient force buli koy. Actually, the rate of atmospheric pressure differences between two places is called pressure gradient. Pressure gradient ki hoy? The rate of atmospheric pressure differences. Kiman rate or duta jagar atmospheric differences ase ইয়াৰ differences to loi pelai air movement je control kore hetuke pressure gradient বুলি কয়. Thus, the amount of force generated due to pressure gradient would depend on pressure difference between two places and distance between them. Aru kiman force generate korise, thus the amount of force generated due to pressure gradient would depend on aru kiman force generate korise for movement of air pressure gradient depend koribo ei dutar jagar atmospheric pressure or difference aru ei dutar jagar major kiman distance ase hey duta factors sai pelai force to generate koribo. The velocity of wind becomes more if the pressure difference between the two places is more or the pressure gradient is more steep. Aru velocity of wind or speed to bahi jabo jetia pressure between duta jaga besi thakibo. Atmospheric pressure e duta jagar besike thakibo tetia amar speed of the wind bahi jabo. But the velocity of wind decreases with increase in distance between the places. Jodi ei dutar jagar major distance to besi ase tetia amar wind or juntu speed hoy hetu komi jabo. Again, as air movement always takes place from higher air pressure region to lower air pressure region, the pressure gradient between two places also determines the wind direction. Aru ami janu je high pressure or pra low pressure role air movement hoy tetia pressure gradient e sabo je e duta place or distance kiman ase e duta place or distance kiman ase he mote wind or direction to determine koribo. The direction in which pressure decreases the pressure gradient is also measured in that direction. Aru jimane pressure decrease hobo junto direction jabo hetu direction jodi pressure kom thake tate pressure gradient to measure koribo direction 2. It means by studying the pressure gradient of a region, we can know the direction and velocity of wind as prevalent there. Aru pressure gradient eta regionor kiman pressure hetu pohi pela ami gom pabo paru je windor direction ki hobo aru windor speed ki hobo. The increase in the value of pressure gradient in a region not only increase in wind velocity but also makes the atmospheric condition of that area unstable. Aru jodi eta jagar pressure gradient to bahi jay windor velocity u bahi jabo windor velocity u mane speed u bahi jabo aru he jagar jonto atmosphere hoy hetu unstable hoi jabo. বেছি বতাহ দিব বেছি জোৰকে বতাহ দিব তেতিয়া ধুমুহা হ'ব ঘৰ ভাঙিব টিন উৰি যাব তেনেকে হে জায়গাটোৰ সিচুৱেশনটো আনষ্টেবল হৈ যায়. On the other hand, the area where pressure gradient is significantly low aru jonto jagat pressure gradient to low hoy kom hoy the wind movement is almost zero and the atmospheric condition remains calm. Aru junto jagat pressure gradient to kom hoy tate wind movement to zero hoy jay mane bahut komi jay aru tare situation to atmospheric condition to bahut stable hoy jay. In such condition prevails over a large area, the isobars lines joining the places having equal barometer pressure can be hardly seen in the map of pressure distribution. Aru kisuman jagat enaka condition prevail kore dangor jaga burot jot land mass besi ase dangor jaga burot enaka hoy je pressure gradient komi jabo aru wind movement to zero hoy jabo aru condition to stable hoi jabo. Etia ami class to ekhinta hamorilo next class continue korim baki keta courses. Thank you.